good evening, and welcome. Find a comfortable position, let your body grow heavy, and allow your mind to drift. Tonight, we are not traveling to the distant stars or alien worlds. Instead, we are exploring a mystery that connects the sky above with the ground beneath our feet. Have you ever looked up during a meteor shower and wondered what might fall to Earth? We think of stone and iron, remnants of cosmic collisions. But what if something else descended? Something soft, gelatinous, and seemingly alive. For centuries, people across the globe have reported finding a strange, jelly-like substance after meteor showers or unexplained aerial phenomena. They call it star jelly, a living slime from the heavens. But what is it really? Tonight, we will gently peel back the layers of this enigma. We will journey through time, from medieval manuscripts to modern laboratories, exploring the folklore, the sightings, and the science behind this celestial mystery. Prepare to drift into a state of deep relaxation as we uncover the story of the living substance that falls from the sky. The story of star jelly is not a modern one. It does not begin with flying saucers or tales of alien encounters. It is a mystery woven into the very fabric of human history, a quiet puzzle whispered about for nearly 1,000 years. The earliest known references date back to the 14th century. Medical texts from that time speak of a substance called uligo, or earth star, believed to be useful for treating abscesses. The descriptions match what we now call star jelly perfectly. But the name that truly captures the phenomenon's folkloric heart comes from Wales. In the Welsh language, it is known as padait, which translates, quite poetically, to rot from the stars. This name reflects the ancient and deeply held belief that the substance was the leftover residue of shooting stars and meteorites after they struck the earth. Imagine an ancient farmer waking before dawn, walking through a field still damp with dew. The night before, the sky had been alive with a meteor shower, a silent celestial fireworks display. And there, on the grass, he finds a strange, quivering mass of jelly. What else could it be but a piece of that falling star transformed by its passage to our world? This belief was not confined to Wales. Across cultures and centuries, different names emerged, all pointing to the sky. Astral jelly, star shot, star slough. The connection was intuitive, primal. The sky was the realm of gods, omens, and wonders. So, a wonder found on the ground must have a celestial origin. These were not just isolated incidents. The reports were consistent, spanning continents and ages, creating a timeless tapestry of wonder and confusion. This is the world we are stepping into tonight. A world where the line between heaven and earth is blurred, and a simple, strange jelly holds the weight of cosmic possibility. Let us begin by painting a picture, a classic sighting. Imagine a small town in rural England, nestled among rolling hills and ancient woodlands. It is a cool autumn morning. A fine mist hangs in the air, clinging to the spider webs that lace the hedgerows. The world is quiet, muffled by the fog. A man is walking his dog along a familiar path, the fallen leaves crunching softly under his boots. He has walked this path 1,000 times, but this morning something is different. Lying in the center of the path, glowing faintly in the soft morning light, is a mound of what looks like clear jelly. It is about the size of a dinner plate. It quivers slightly as he approaches. There is no discernible color, just a translucent, silvery quality. It seems to have appeared from nowhere. There are no tracks around it, no sign of any animal or person who might have left it there. The air is still and silent. He kneels, hesitantly reaching out a hand, but not quite touching it. The substance has no obvious structure. It is amorphous, a blob of organized liquid that somehow holds its shape. He detects no smell, no sound. It is utterly alien to the familiar landscape of grass and stone and wood. It is this profound sense of otherness that defines the star jelly experience. The discovery is almost always the same: a quiet morning, a remote location, and a substance that simply does not belong. It is the sudden intrusion of the unexplained into the mundane. For the person who finds it, it is a moment of pure wonder, a question mark, left by the universe on their doorstep. This quiet, personal discovery, repeated countless times throughout history, is the very heart of the star jelly legend. Now let us examine the substance itself through the eyes of those who have encountered it. What are its physical properties? Across hundreds of reports, a remarkably consistent description emerges. The primary characteristic is, of course, its gelatinous nature. It is often described as being similar to tapioca pudding or a thick, unset gelatin dessert. It is almost always translucent, ranging from a cloudy white or gray to a completely clear, glass-like form. Some reports mention a purplish or greenish tint, but these are less common. The texture is reported as soft and delicate. Those who have dared to touch it describe it as cool and slimy, yet not sticky. It holds its form, but can be easily broken apart. One of the most perplexing qualities is its seeming lack of any biological signature, at least to the naked eye. There are no veins, no cells, no fibers. It appears to be a homogeneous, uniform substance. This is what makes it so baffling. It looks biological, it feels biological, but it lacks the familiar structures of life as we know it. What about its scent? This is another point of consistency. The vast majority of witnesses report that star jelly is completely odorless. In a few cases, a faint, unpleasant smell is noted, often described as sulfurous or like burning metal, which only deepens the association with meteorites. But in most instances, it has no scent at all, adding to its ethereal, unnatural quality. It is a silent, scentless, strange visitor. It is this combination of traits, the jelly-like form, the translucency, the lack of smell or structure, that makes it so difficult to identify. It does not fit neatly into any category of known natural phenomena. It is too firm to be just water, too unstructured to be a plant, and too inert to be an animal. It simply is, a shimmering, silent enigma resting on the morning grass. Perhaps the most magical and most frustrating aspect of the star jelly phenomenon is its ephemeral nature. It does not last. The strange substance that appears so suddenly vanishes just as mysteriously. Witnesses often report returning to the spot only a few hours later to find that the jelly is completely gone, leaving no trace behind. It is as if it was never there. This rapid disappearance is a key part of the legend, and it is the primary reason why scientific study has been so incredibly difficult. The jelly seems to exist in a liminal state, a brief visitor to our world that cannot or will not remain. The process of its disappearance is described in two primary ways. The most common is evaporation. Witnesses describe the jelly shrinking over the course of an hour or two, seemingly melting away into the air until nothing is left but a small, dark stain on the ground, or sometimes a fine, grayish powder. This would suggest a very high water content, a hydrogel that quickly loses its moisture to the atmosphere. Imagine watching a bead of water on a warm surface. It shrinks, its edges pulling inward until it vanishes. The disappearance of star jelly is described as a larger, slower version of this exact process. The second, more dramatic description is sublimation, or a direct transformation from a semi-solid state to a gas. Some accounts, particularly older ones, speak of the jelly seeming to dissipate like smoke when exposed to direct sunlight. This adds to the mystical quality of the substance. It isn't just drying out, it is actively vanishing, returning to some unseen, ethereal state. This fleeting existence is what protects the mystery. By the time a witness can find a container, or call an expert, the evidence has often disappeared. It is a phenomenon that seems to defy capture, a ghost that leaves no body behind. This transient quality ensures that star jelly remains firmly in the realm of anecdote and folklore, always just beyond the grasp of conclusive scientific analysis. To truly understand the depth of this mystery, we must travel back in time. Let us drift back to the year 1305. The world is a very different place. Science as we know it is in its infancy, and the world is understood through a lens of philosophy, alchemy, and faith. It is in this era that we find some of the first written accounts that align with the star jelly phenomenon. A Franciscan friar and physician named John of Gaddesden, a man of great learning for his time, writes in his medical encyclopedia, the Rosa Anglica. He describes a substance he calls stella terrae, which means star of the earth, or earth star. He recommended its use in a plaster to treat abscesses and other ailments. His description is of a certain mucilaginous substance lying on the earth. He believed it had healing properties, perhaps because its origin was thought to be celestial and therefore pure. He and other physicians of his time were likely observing a real, natural substance. But in a world without modern biology, the most logical explanation for something so strange appearing overnight was that it came from the heavens. Imagine their worldview. The stars were fixed points of light in a celestial sphere. Comets and meteors were omens, messages from the divine. If a strange jelly appeared after a night of celestial activity, the conclusion was not just logical, it was obvious. These early records are crucial because they show that star jelly is not a product of the modern age of UFOs and science fiction. It is an ancient puzzle. These medieval scholars were not describing industrial waste or plastic polymers. They were describing a genuine natural phenomenon, one that puzzled them as much as it puzzles us today. Their attempts to categorize it, to give it a name and a purpose, reveal a fundamental human desire to make sense of the unknown. They did not have the tools for chemical analysis, but they had observation and reason. And their reason pointed them, as it has pointed so many others since, to the stars. Let us journey now to the green, rain-swept hills of Wales. It is here that the mystery of star jelly has its deepest cultural roots. The Welsh name for the substance, padait, is perhaps the most evocative and enduring term associated with the phenomenon. It translates as wrought from the stars. The word putter implies decay, a decomposition, as if the stars themselves were organic, celestial bodies that could shed pieces of themselves, which would then rot upon reaching our terrestrial sphere. This name is not just a label, it is a complete folk theory condensed into 2 words. It tells a story of cosmic decay and terrestrial transformation. The term has been a part of Welsh folklore for centuries, passed down through generations. It is tied to the landscape, to the sheep-dotted hills and misty valleys where the substance was so often found. Old Welsh poems and stories reference the phenomenon. It was a known, if mysterious, part of the natural world. Why was the belief so strong here? Wales is a country with a rich tradition of oral storytelling, of myths and legends tied to the land. The night sky, often brilliantly clear in the rural countryside, played a huge role in their culture. Meteor showers, like the Perseids in August or the Leonids in November, would have been spectacular, unhindered by the light pollution of modern cities. The link between seeing these falling stars and later finding padait on the ground would have been powerful and direct. It was a cause and effect relationship, written in the language of myth and observation. The folklore also contained practical advice. It was said that padait was harmless, but that it would bring bad luck to the sheep if they ate it. It was a substance to be observed with wonder, but left alone. This Welsh connection is a beautiful reminder that before this was a scientific puzzle, it was a piece of cultural heritage. It was a way for people to connect with the cosmos, to find a tangible piece of the heavens in their own backyard. The name, padait, carries the weight of all those generations who looked up at the night sky in awe, and then looked down at the ground in wonder. The connection between star jelly and meteor showers is the most persistent and powerful element of the legend. It is the thread that ties together sightings from the 14th century to the 21st. It is an idea that is both romantic and intuitive. We see a brilliant streak of light blaze across the night sky, a fleeting visitor from the depths of space. The next morning, we find a strange, otherworldly substance on the ground. The mind naturally connects the 2 events. It is a simple, elegant story. The shooting star lands, and this is what is left of it. For centuries, this was not just a folk belief. It was the primary explanation. People would specifically go out looking for the jelly in the days following major meteor showers like the Leonids or the Geminids. Finding a clump of it was like finding a cosmic treasure, a direct physical link to the vast, mysterious universe above. The timing often seemed to be perfect. Meteor showers are predictable astronomical events. People would be paying more attention to the sky and also to the ground in the hopes of finding a meteorite. This heightened state of observation naturally led to more discoveries of strange things, including star jelly. The story was self-reinforcing. Someone would see a meteor, find the jelly, and tell their neighbors. The story would spread, and the next time a meteor shower occurred, even more people would be looking, and the legend would grow stronger. It became a piece of communal knowledge, a shared truth about the world. The stars fell last night, someone might say. I wonder if anyone will find the jelly. It is a beautiful and compelling narrative. It gives a tangible form to the fleeting beauty of a shooting star. It transforms a distant astronomical event into a personal, tactile experience. But as our understanding of science grew, this beautiful story began to face some very difficult questions. As our scientific understanding of the cosmos deepened, the beautiful connection between meteor showers and star jelly began to unravel. Let us calmly and gently explore why this is. Think about what a meteor truly is. It is a small piece of rock or metal, a meteoroid, traveling through space at incredible speeds. These speeds are almost unimaginable, often tens of thousands of miles per hour. When this meteoroid enters Earth's atmosphere, it encounters immense friction. The air in front of it is compressed and heated to thousands of degrees. This is what creates the brilliant streak of light we call a shooting star. The meteoroid itself is being vaporized by this intense heat. It is a process of extreme violence. Now consider a soft, gelatinous substance with a high water content. What would happen to such a substance if it were subjected to these conditions? It would not survive. The water would instantly boil and turn to steam. Any organic compounds would be incinerated, turned to ash and gas in a fraction of a second. There is simply no known physical process by which a jelly-like material could endure the fiery descent through our atmosphere. It could not be shielded by rock, because the rock itself is melting and burning away. The very energy that creates the beautiful light of a shooting star would utterly destroy the delicate structure of star jelly. This scientific reality presents a major challenge to the traditional folklore. It gently suggests that while the timing of sightings with meteor showers might be correlated, it is not a relationship of cause and effect. The two events, the celestial light show and the terrestrial jelly, are likely separate phenomena that our minds have linked together. This does not diminish the mystery of star jelly itself. It simply shifts the focus of our search for an explanation. If it does not come from falling stars, then where does it come from? The search for an answer must leave the realm of astronomy and enter another scientific field, one that deals with the strange and wonderful forms of life, right here on our own planet. With the astronomical explanation facing serious challenges, human imagination turned to another, even more exciting possibility. If star jelly wasn't the remains of a burned-up rock, perhaps it was not the vehicle, but the passenger. This brings us to the extraterrestrial hypothesis. The idea is simple and thrilling. Star jelly is biological. It is a life form, or the remains of one, from another world. In this version of the story, the substance is not debris, but a creature, an alien entity that has somehow traveled across the vastness of space and arrived on our planet. This idea gained significant popularity in the mid-20th century, the golden age of science fiction and the dawn of the UFO era. People began to look at the sky with a new kind of wonder and a new kind of apprehension. The idea of the visitor became a powerful cultural force. Star jelly fit this narrative perfectly. It was amorphous, unidentifiable, and appeared to be alive, or at least organic. It was the perfect candidate for a simple, non-technological alien life form. Perhaps it was a kind of space amoeba, a simple protoplasmic being that drifts through the cosmos. Or maybe it was the eggs or larvae of a more complex alien creature, deposited on our world to incubate. The theories were as varied as the human imagination itself. The rapid disappearance of the jelly was also easily explained in this context. Perhaps the alien life form could not survive in our oxygen-rich atmosphere. Its vanishing act was not evaporation, but death and decomposition. Or maybe it was a being of a different dimension, and its appearance in our world was only temporary before it phased back out of existence. These ideas, while not scientifically supported, are a testament to our deep-seated curiosity about life beyond Earth. They transform a strange puddle of goo into a potential first contact scenario. It is a story that speaks to our hopes and our fears about the universe. The thought that life could be so strange, so different from our own, is both exciting and a little unsettling. This is the power of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. It takes a humble, earthly mystery and elevates it to a cosmic drama. The idea of a gelatinous alien creature falling from the sky was not just a fringe theory. It became deeply embedded in our popular culture. The most famous example, of course, is the classic 1958 science fiction horror film, The Blob. The movie tells the story of a small town terrorized by an amorphous, jelly-like alien creature that consumes everything in its path, growing larger and larger. The creature arrives on Earth inside a meteorite. The parallels to the star jelly legend are undeniable. The filmmakers took the core elements of the folklore, a substance from the sky, gelatinous in form, associated with a meteorite, and amplified them into a thrilling monster movie. The film was a massive success, and it cemented the image of the gelatinous alien in the public consciousness. After The Blob, it became impossible to see a report of star jelly without thinking of the movie. The cultural feedback loop was complete. The ancient folklore had inspired the movie, and the movie, in turn, reshaped how people perceived the real-world phenomenon. Reports of star jelly sightings often took on a more sinister tone after the film's release. People were not just curious anymore. They were a little afraid. The idea that this substance could be dangerous, that it could be a predatory alien, added a new layer of thrilling fear to the mystery. This cultural influence is important to acknowledge. It shows how our stories, our art, and our entertainment can shape our perception of reality. The mystery of star jelly became intertwined with the fiction of The Blob, making it harder to separate the facts from the fantasy. While scientists were looking for rational, terrestrial explanations, a large part of the public was captivated by the far more exciting possibility of a real-life monster. This is not to say that the film created the phenomenon, but it certainly gave it a powerful and memorable identity for the modern age. The humble, PW of Welsh folklore had been given a Hollywood makeover, and it was now, for many, The Blob. As the 20th century progressed, the approach to the star jelly mystery began to shift. The era of pure folklore and speculation started to give way to a more methodical, scientific approach. The challenge, however, remained the same. The evidence was notoriously difficult to secure. The fleeting nature of the substance meant that by the time scientists were called to a scene, there was often nothing left to analyze. The few samples that were collected and sent to laboratories presented their own set of problems. The substance would often decompose or evaporate in the transit. The samples that did arrive were often contaminated by the soil, leaves, and bacteria from the environment in which they were found. Despite these immense challenges, scientists began to propose and test various hypotheses. They moved away from the celestial and the extraterrestrial and began to search for answers in the complex and often surprising world of terrestrial biology and chemistry. This was a critical turning point in the story of star jelly. It marked the moment where wonder began to be supplemented by the scientific method. The questions changed. Instead of asking, which star did it fall from, scientists began to ask, what on earth could this be? The search was on for a known substance or organism that matched the description. This required a different kind of imagination. Not the imagination of myth-making, but the imagination of a detective, looking for clues, connecting seemingly unrelated facts, and building a case for a rational explanation. The mystery was no longer just a story to be told around a campfire. It was now a problem to be solved, a puzzle for chemists, biologists, and meteorologists to unravel. The age of scientific scrutiny had begun, and with it, the first truly plausible theories began to emerge from the quiet corners of the natural world. And so, as the lens of science turned away from the distant cosmos and focused back upon the Earth, a compelling and rather unexpected candidate emerged as the prime suspect for the identity of star jelly. This explanation does not involve aliens or meteors, but a far more common and humble creature, one whose life is intimately connected to water and rain. We are, of course, speaking of amphibians, specifically frogs, toads, and salamanders. At first, this might seem like a strange connection. What could these familiar creatures of the pond and forest have to do with a mysterious jelly falling from the sky? The answer lies in a combination of biology and the natural cycle of predator and prey. Let us begin with the biology. Female amphibians, as part of their reproductive cycle, produce eggs. These eggs are encased in a protective, gelatinous coating. This is the familiar frog spawn or toad spawn that we see in ponds in the spring. This jelly has a remarkable property. It is a hydrogel, meaning it can absorb huge amounts of water and swell to many times its original size. The key to the theory, however, is not the spawn itself, but the creature that produces it. The oviducts of a female frog are the glands that create this jelly. These glands are, themselves, made of a similar gelatinous material. Now imagine a predator. A large bird, such as a heron, a buzzard, or a crow, is a natural hunter of frogs. A heron wading in the shallow spots a frog and, in a flash, swallows it whole. Inside the bird's digestive system, the process of breaking down the meal begins. The muscles, bones, and organs of the frog are digested, but the amphibian's jelly-filled oviducts are often indigestible. They are tough, slippery, and offer little nutritional value. So, what does the bird do with this indigestible material? It regurgitates it. Let us visualize the next step in this process, the journey that transforms a part of a frog into a celestial mystery. The heron, having consumed its meal, takes flight. It soars over fields and forests, perhaps miles away from the pond where it hunted. At some point during its flight, or perhaps after it has landed on a branch to rest, its body expels the indigestible oviducts. This lump of jelly, now separated from the rest of the frog, falls from the sky. When it hits the ground, especially if the ground is damp with dew or rain, the dehydrated jelly begins to absorb moisture. It swells, expands, and transforms into a quivering, translucent mass. To an unsuspecting person who discovers it on their morning walk, it appears as if it has materialized from nowhere. It is a strange, biological substance that has, for all intents and purposes, fallen from the sky. This theory, often called the amphibian vomit theory, is scientifically compelling because it elegantly explains so many of the bizarre characteristics of star jelly. It accounts for the gelatinous texture and translucent appearance. It explains why sightings are common in damp, rural areas where both amphibians and their predators are plentiful. It explains why sightings often occur after rain, as the rain provides the moisture for the substance to swell. It also provides a logical reason for the occasional discovery of small bones or traces of organic material within the jelly. Most importantly, it accounts for the rapid disappearance. Being largely composed of water, the substance would naturally evaporate and shrink away as the sun rises and the day warms up. It grounds the otherworldly mystery in the very real and sometimes gruesome drama of the natural world. It suggests that star jelly is not a message from the stars, but a simple biological remnant, a footnote in the daily struggle for survival. The amphibian theory is not just a clever idea, it has been supported by physical evidence. On several occasions, samples of suspected star jelly have been collected quickly enough to be subjected to modern biological analysis. The results have often been revealing. In a number of cases, DNA testing has been performed on the collected material. The results have come back positive for amphibian DNA. Specifically, the DNA of common frogs or toads. This is powerful, direct evidence. It is the scientific equivalent of a smoking gun, linking the mysterious substance directly to a known terrestrial creature. In one well-documented case from 2009 in Scotland, a gelatinous substance was found in a nature reserve. The sample was analyzed by scientists who concluded it was most likely frog spawn, although they could not definitively extract enough DNA to identify the exact species, likely due to degradation. In other instances, microscopic analysis has revealed the presence of bacteria and other microorganisms commonly found in ponds and soil, further rooting the substance in an earthly, biological context. These findings provide a strong, rational foundation for what was once a purely folkloric mystery. They demonstrate that at least some, and perhaps many, cases of star jelly are misidentified biological matter. However, it is important to note that this explanation does not necessarily cover all cases. The world of unexplained phenomena is rarely so simple. There are sightings where the substance was found in areas with no amphibians, or where the sheer volume of the jelly seems too large to have come from a single bird. And then there are the truly strange cases, the outliers that defy easy explanation and keep the mystery alive. One of the most famous and baffling of these cases took place in the small town of Oakville, Washington, in 1994. Let us now turn our attention to one of the most famous and most unsettling star jelly events in modern history, the Oakville blobs. We travel to the small town of Oakville, Washington. The date is August 7th, 1994. It is the middle of the night. A light rain begins to fall, but this is no ordinary rain. Instead of water, the sky releases small, clear, gelatinous droplets, each about the size of a grain of rice. One resident, a police officer named David Lacey, is on patrol with a friend. They turn on their windshield wipers, but the substance just smears across the glass, forcing them to pull over. They put on gloves and examine the material. It is a strange, translucent goo. This was not a single event. Over the next 3 weeks, this bizarre, gelatinous rain would fall a total of 6 times over a 20-square-mile area around Oakville. The story quickly escalated from a local curiosity to a national mystery. What made the Oakville case so different was its scale and its apparent effect on the local population. Several residents, including Officer Lacey, reported coming down with a mysterious, flu-like illness shortly after coming into contact with the blobs. Symptoms included dizziness, nausea, and fatigue. The illness would last for weeks, even months. Local animals, cats and dogs, were also reported to have fallen ill and died after the gelatinous rain. This added a frightening new dimension to the star jelly phenomenon. It was no longer a harmless, wondrous curiosity. In Oakville, it seemed to be a biological hazard. The story was picked up by major news outlets and even featured on the television show Unsolved Mysteries. The quiet town of Oakville was now at the center of a baffling and slightly terrifying scientific enigma. The events in Oakville prompted a flurry of scientific investigation. Several samples of the mysterious blobs were collected and sent to different laboratories for analysis. The results only deepened the mystery. One resident sent a sample to a local hospital lab. A microbiologist examined it under a microscope and was startled by what she saw. The substance contained what appeared to be living cells, but they were strange, unlike any cells she recognized. They had a nucleus, but no cell wall, suggesting they were animal cells. She tentatively identified them as possible white blood cells. This was a shocking discovery. White blood cells are a key component of the immune system in complex animals. What were they doing inside a gelatinous substance falling from the sky? Another sample was sent to the Washington State Department of Health for a more thorough analysis. Their tests also confirmed the presence of biological agents, specifically 2 species of bacteria, including one that is commonly found in the human digestive system. This led to a rather unpleasant but plausible theory. The blobs could be human waste jettisoned from a commercial airplane. The Federal Aviation Administration, however, stated that all such waste is dyed blue to prevent this kind of confusion, and the Oakville blobs were clear. The theory was a dead end. The lab that identified the white blood cells sent their sample to a private research lab for further testing. The results from that lab were even more bizarre. They claimed they had managed to grow the organism in the sample and that it was a complex, living entity. However, their research was never published in a peer-reviewed journal, and the lab itself later went out of business, leaving their claims unverified and shrouded in controversy. In the end, the analysis of the Oakville blobs was a collection of contradictions and dead ends. Were they cells? Were they bacteria? Was it human waste? Was it a secret military experiment, as some locals suspected? No single explanation could account for all the facts. The Oakville case remains a potent and unsettling chapter in the star jelly story, a reminder that sometimes, even with our modern scientific tools, the world can present us with a puzzle that resists a simple solution. As scientists continued to search for a biological explanation for star jelly, another candidate emerged from the strange and beautiful world of mycology. This theory centers on a group of organisms known as slime molds. The name itself sounds like something from science fiction, and their behavior is just as strange. Slime molds are not animals, plants, or fungi. They belong to a kingdom of their own, the protists. For much of their life cycle, they exist as single-celled organisms, invisible to the naked eye, living in soil and on decaying wood. But when conditions are right, something remarkable happens. Thousands of these individual cells will swarm together, merging to form a single, large, visible organism called a plasmodium. This plasmodium can move, albeit very slowly, and it behaves like a giant amoeba, creeping across the forest floor in search of food. In this stage, a slime mold can look remarkably like star jelly. They are often brightly colored, yellow or orange, but some species are translucent or whitish. They have a gelatinous, slimy texture, and they can appear seemingly overnight. A person could walk through a forest one day and see nothing, and return the next morning after a rain to find a large, quivering mass of slime mold that was not there before. This overnight appearance is a perfect match for the sudden discovery of star jelly. The connection to rain is also significant. Slime molds thrive in damp conditions, and their most active and visible stage is often triggered by a good rainfall. It is easy to see how someone unfamiliar with the life cycle of these strange organisms could find a fresh plasmodium and believe it had fallen from the sky. It is a far more plausible explanation than meteorites or aliens. It involves a known, if bizarre, terrestrial life form that perfectly matches many aspects of the description. The slime mold theory is a strong contender, a quiet and creeping creature of the forest floor, mistaken for a visitor from the stars. Closely related to the slime mold theory is another biological candidate, one that is even more ancient and widespread. This explanation involves a group of organisms known as cyanobacteria. You may know them by their more common name, blue-green algae. These are some of the oldest life forms on Earth. For billions of years, they have been quietly photosynthesizing, helping to create the oxygen-rich atmosphere that we all breathe. One particular genus of cyanobacteria, called nostoc, is a leading candidate for the identity of star jelly. Nostoc colonies grow in a gelatinous, globular mass. In its dry, dormant state, it looks like a small, black, crusty flake on the soil. It is easily overlooked. But when it rains, something incredible happens. The dormant colony absorbs a huge amount of water and swells up, transforming into a large, translucent, greenish-brown blob of jelly. The transformation is dramatic and rapid. A patch of ground that looked bare can suddenly be home to several of these quivering masses after a rainstorm. The appearance of nostoc is a perfect fit for the classic star jelly sighting. It appears suddenly after rain, it is gelatinous, and it is found on the ground in open areas. Nostoc has several common names that connect it directly to the star jelly folklore. It is sometimes called witch's butter or star slough, a name that directly echoes the celestial legend. It is found all over the world, which would explain the global distribution of star jelly sightings. When a sample of nostoc is analyzed, it is found to be composed of long chains of bacterial cells within a gelatinous matrix. This biological structure is consistent with some, though not all, of the laboratory analyses of star jelly samples. The nostoc theory is powerful because of its simplicity and its ubiquity. It does not require a complex chain of events like a bird eating a frog. It only requires an ancient, common bacterium and a little bit of rain. It suggests that star jelly is not a rare, mysterious event, but a common, natural process that has been misunderstood and mythologized for centuries. Let us take a moment to visualize nostoc, to see it not as a scientific name, but as a physical presence in the world. Imagine you are walking on a gravel path after a summer rain. The air is fresh and clean. The ground is dark with moisture. And there, nestled among the small stones, you see them. Small, translucent globules, like scattered pieces of pale green jello. This is nostoc. If you were to gently touch one, it would feel cool and slippery, firm but delicate. It does not have the fibrous, structured feeling of a plant. It feels more like a living liquid, a drop of the earth's own primordial soup. It's easy to understand why it was given the folk name witch's butter. It has a strange, unctuous quality, as if it were a magical substance churned by unseen hands. In some places it forms larger colonies, creating a rippled, brain-like shade of dark green jelly across the soil. It can look alien, a patch of otherworldly biology spreading across the familiar ground. The legend of it falling from the sky is completely understandable when you see it in person. Its sudden appearance, its strange texture, its lack of roots or leaves. Everything about it suggests it is a visitor, not a resident. But nostoc is one of the oldest residents of our planet. Its quiet, humble existence is a direct link to the earliest forms of life on Earth. So when you see this strange jelly, you are not looking at something from the stars. You are looking at an ancestor. You are looking at a life form that has been performing the quiet miracle of photosynthesis for over 3 billion years. It is a different kind of wonder. Not the wonder of a visitor from another world, but the wonder of the deep, ancient, and often very strange history of our own. While earthly biology provides some excellent candidates, there is another, more speculative scientific theory that still keeps its gaze turned toward the sky. This is the hypothesis of atmospheric organisms. The idea is that life may not be confined to the surface of our planet. Could there be a whole ecosystem of microscopic creatures living high up in the clouds, in the Earth's atmosphere? This field of study is sometimes called aerobiology. Scientists have confirmed that bacteria, fungal spores, and other microorganisms are regularly swept up into the atmosphere, where they can travel for thousands of miles. The atmosphere is a harsh environment. The temperature is freezing, the water is scarce, and the ultraviolet radiation is intense. However, some hardy microbes known as extremophiles, might be able to survive and even thrive in these conditions. The theory suggests that these atmospheric microbes could, under certain conditions, form large colonies. To protect themselves from the harsh environment, they might secrete a gelatinous polysaccharide matrix, similar to the nostoc colonies on the ground. This would create a biological blob floating high in the sky. Eventually, this blob could grow heavy enough to fall to Earth, perhaps during a rainstorm. This would perfectly explain the phenomenon of a strange jelly falling from the sky. It would be a true celestial visitor, but not from outer space. It would be from the upper reaches of our own planet's biosphere. This is a very intriguing idea, but it is also highly speculative. While we know microbes exist in the atmosphere, there is currently no direct evidence of them forming large, gelatinous colonies that can fall to the ground. It remains on the fringes of mainstream science. However, it is a fascinating concept because it bridges the gap between the mundane and the mysterious. It offers a potential scientific explanation that still involves something falling from the sky. It reminds us that there are still vast, unexplored frontiers right here on our own planet, and that the sky above us may hold more secrets than we can possibly imagine. As we move into the modern industrial era, a new set of potential explanations for star jelly emerges. These theories have nothing to do with biology, but with the synthetic materials created by humans. It is possible that some modern sightings of star jelly are not a natural phenomenon at all, but a case of mistaken identity involving industrial polymers. One of the prime suspects is a substance called sodium polyacrylate. This is a superabsorbent polymer. It can absorb hundreds of times its own weight in water. In its dry, granular form, it is an unassuming white powder. But when you add water, it transforms almost instantly into a clear, firm gel. This substance is incredibly common. It is the absorbent material used in disposable diapers, in floral gels for watering plants, and in various industrial applications. It is easy to imagine how this substance could be mistaken for star jelly. A small amount of the dry powder, perhaps spilled from a truck or a factory, could lie dormant on the ground. Then, after a rain, it would swell up into a large, gelatinous mass that seems to have appeared from nowhere. The resulting gel is odorless, translucent, and has a texture very similar to the descriptions of star jelly. This theory is particularly relevant for sightings that occur near industrial areas or along transport routes. Other man-made substances could also be the culprit. Various forms of industrial waste, chemical spills, or even discarded hair gel or other cosmetic products could, under the right conditions, form a jelly-like substance that could baffle an unsuspecting witness. This explanation is perhaps the least romantic of all. It replaces shooting stars and alien life with industrial waste and spilled chemicals. But it is a necessary and logical possibility to consider in our modern world. It suggests that the star jelly label might be a catch-all term, apply not just to one mysterious phenomenon, but to many different, unrelated substances, both natural and artificial. Let us drift back in time again to a specific, well-documented case from the mid-20th century. We find ourselves in the town of Kirtland, Ohio. The year is 1958, It is a crisp November evening. Two police officers, Willard Pogan and Frank Mann, are on patrol. They're driving down a quiet rural road when their headlights catch something strange on the ground ahead. They stop the car and get out to investigate. Lying on the road is a large, quivering mound of purple jelly. They estimate it to be about a foot in diameter and 6 inches thick. It seems to be pulsating, emitting a faint, greenish light. The officers are baffled. They have never seen anything like it. One of the officers, Frank Mann, cautiously reaches out and touches the substance with his hand. He later reported that it felt warm and that it dissolved upon contact, leaving behind a reddish, irritating residue on his skin. They try to collect a sample, but the jelly seems to disintegrate as they handle it. They call for backup, and within a half hour, several other officers and even an Air Force intelligence officer arrive at the scene. But by the time they get there, the substance has completely vanished, leaving no trace behind. The officers who touched it had to seek medical treatment for the rash on their hands. This case is fascinating because it was witnessed by multiple credible law enforcement officers. It also includes details not found in most other reports: the purple color, the pulsating light, and the fact that it dissolved on contact, causing a physical reaction. The Kirtland case is a true outlier. It does not fit neatly with the amphibian vomit theory or the nostoc theory. The reported properties are too strange, too active. It remains one of the most compelling and perplexing accounts in the star jelly archives, a data point that stubbornly refuses to fit into any easy explanation. It serves as a powerful reminder that just when we think we have a mystery figured out, the universe can present us with a new set of questions. 8 years before the Kirtland incident, another strange encounter involving police officers took place, this time in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The year is 1950. The date is September 26th. Two veteran police officers, Joe Keenan and John Collins, are making their rounds in the early evening. As they turn a corner, their patrol car's headlights illuminate a bizarre object in an open field. They describe it as a large, shimmering, dome-shaped mound of jelly. It was huge, approximately 6 feet in diameter, and it was quivering as if it were alive. Just like the officers in Kirtland, they were completely mystified. They approached the object cautiously. They reported that it had a faint, purplish glow and seemed to be dissolving around the edges, emitting a strange, mist-like vapor. Officer Collins reached out with his police baton to touch it. He said it felt soft and jelly-like. They decided to call for backup, but as they were radioing for assistance, the unthinkable happened. The entire mass began to evaporate. Before their very eyes, the 6-foot dome of jelly dissolved into nothingness, vanishing completely in less than half an hour. By the time their backup arrived, there was nothing to see but an empty field with a faint, sticky residue on the grass. The story of the Philadelphia jelly blob made national news. The two officers were experienced, credible witnesses. Their report was detailed and consistent. This was not a vague folk tale. It was a formal police report. What could they have seen? The sheer size of the object, 6 feet across, makes the typical biological explanations difficult. It is far too large to be regurgitated frog spawn or a single slime mold colony. The reported glow and the rapid, complete evaporation are are also highly unusual. The Philadelphia case, much like the Kirtland incident, stands as a pillar of the star jelly mystery. It is a high strangeness event, witnessed by reliable observers, that defies all the common explanations. It remains an unsolved case, a moment in time when two police officers in a quiet field came face to face with something that, by all accounts, should not exist. Let us now take a gentle step back from the specific theories and consider a more philosophical aspect of this mystery, the role of human perception. Our brains are remarkable organs. They are constantly trying to make sense of the world, to find patterns and create stories that explain our experiences. When we encounter something truly strange and unidentifiable, our brain does not simply give up. It searches its vast library of knowledge and experience for the closest possible match. Consider the context of a classic star jelly sighting. A person is walking in a quiet, natural setting, perhaps early in the morning. They are in a contemplative, peaceful state of mind. They might have seen a meteor shower the night before. Their mind is already primed with thoughts of the cosmos. Then they find a strange, gelatinous substance. What is the brain to do with this information? It runs through the possibilities. It is not a plant. It is not an animal. It is not a rock. It looks otherworldly. The memory of the meteor shower from the night before surfaces. The brain makes a connection. It must be from the stars. This is not a conscious deception. It is a natural cognitive process. The story we tell ourselves about what we see is just as important as the seeing itself. Our expectations, our beliefs, and our cultural background all shape our interpretation of an event. A medieval farmer, a Welsh storyteller, and a modern UFO enthusiast might all find the exact same clump of nostoc bacteria, but their explanations for what it is will be wildly different, each shaped by their own unique worldview. This is why the star jelly legend is so powerful and so persistent. It is a perfect Rorschach test for our relationship with the unknown. We project our own beliefs onto it. For some, it is proof of alien life. For others, it is a miracle of nature. For still others, it is a reminder of the gaps in our scientific knowledge. The mystery of star jelly may not be entirely in the substance itself, but also in the mind of the person who finds it. The mystery of star jelly is not confined to one country or one culture. It is a truly global phenomenon. While the name Pibabúrsair is Welsh, the experience is universal. Reports of strange, gelatinous masses appearing from nowhere can be found in folklore and modern accounts from all over the world. In Scotland, the phenomenon is well documented, with numerous sightings in the rugged, misty highlands. The famous 2009 case in a nature reserve is just one of many Scottish encounters. The dramatic, often wet landscape provides a perfect backdrop for the appearance of slime molds, nostoc, and other biological candidates. In Germany, there is a folk term, Sternenrotz, which translates to star snot, another wonderfully descriptive name that links the substance directly to the heavens. In parts of the United States, particularly in Texas and other southern states, a phenomenon known as mare's eggs is often reported, describing large, jelly-like sacs found on the ground, which are now believed to be the slime mold, Fuligo septica, Australia has its own share of sightings, with reports of strange sky jelly found in the vast, open spaces of the outback. This global distribution is a crucial clue. It tells us that we are likely not dealing with a single localized phenomenon. If it were, for example, industrial waste from a specific factory, the sightings would be clustered in one area, but they are not. They are spread across continents, in different climates, and different environments. This suggests that the cause is something common, something universal. Natural biological processes like amphibian life cycles, the growth of slime molds, and the behavior of cyanobacteria are all universal. They happen everywhere. The fact that the sightings are global strongly supports the idea that star jelly is not one single thing, but a collection of different natural phenomena, all given the same mysterious name by the people who encounter them. The mystery is the same, even if the substance is different. Let's revisit a more recent case that illustrates the ongoing nature of this puzzle. We travel to the year 2009, to the fast fern forest in the Scottish Highlands. A walker in this remote and beautiful area comes across a strange, translucent jelly lying on the grass. The sighting is reported, and because it is on land managed by a nature conservation agency, scientists are able to quickly collect samples. The substance is sent to the James Hutton Institute, a respected scientific research center, for analysis. This was a perfect opportunity to apply modern science to the ancient mystery. The scientists conducted a series of tests, including DNA analysis. Their initial findings were intriguing. They found that the jelly contained DNA, but they were unable to get a clear match to any known species in their database. The mystery deepened. Was this evidence of some new, unknown organism? The story was picked up by the media, and the Scottish mystery goo became a minor sensation. However, the scientists continued their work. They refined their techniques and ran the tests again. The final conclusion was more down to earth. While the DNA was degraded, it contained sequences that were consistent with those of frogs. They also found traces of magnesium and other elements commonly found in ponds. Their official conclusion was that the substance was most likely frog spawn that had been regurgitated by a predator, or perhaps unfertilized spawn that had been disturbed. The case was, for the scientists, largely closed, but it demonstrates the typical life cycle of a modern star jelly investigation. First, the strange discovery. Second, the initial excitement and speculation. And third, the eventual, often mundane, scientific explanation. It also highlights the challenges. The DNA was degraded, making a 100% positive identification difficult. This small amount of ambiguity is all that is needed to keep the mystery alive for those who want to believe in a more extraordinary explanation. The Scottish case is a microcosm of the entire star jelly story, a dance between wonder and science, between mystery and explanation. We have spoken at length about the ephemeral nature of star jelly, how it vanishes before it can be properly studied. This is the single greatest obstacle in solving the mystery once and for all. Let us explore the reasons for this challenge in more detail. The primary culprit is, of course, decomposition and evaporation. Most of the leading candidates for star jelly, frog spawn, nostoc, slime molds have an extremely high water content, often over 99%. They are essentially structured water. In the open air, especially on a sunny or windy day, this water evaporates very quickly. The substance shrinks and disappears, leaving little to no trace. This process can happen in just a few hours. A witness might find the jelly in the morning and decide to come back for it in the afternoon, only to find it gone. The window of opportunity for collection is incredibly small. Another major challenge is contamination. The substance is found on the ground, in the dirt, on the grass. From the moment it lands, it begins to be colonized by local bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms. It picks up dust, pollen, and tiny particles from the soil. When this contaminated sample arrives at a lab, it is very difficult for scientists to distinguish between the components of the original substance and the environmental contaminants. This is why some lab results have been so confusing, identifying a cocktail of different bacteria. They may not be analyzing the substance itself, but the ecosystem that has grown on it. Finally, there is the problem of preservation. How do you preserve a sample that is mostly water? If you freeze it, the ice crystals can destroy the delicate structure. If you put it in alcohol, the alcohol can dehydrate it and alter its chemical composition. Finding a way to transport and store the substance without changing it is a significant scientific challenge. These three factors, rapid disappearance, contamination, and the difficulty of preservation, have conspired for centuries to protect the star jelly mystery. It is a phenomenon that seems perfectly designed to elude our scientific grasp, always showing itself, but rarely allowing itself to be caught. In our modern age of digital media and instant communication, we must also consider a new and complicating factor in the star jelly story: the possibility of hoaxes. With the rise of the internet, a strange story or a compelling photograph can spread around the world in an instant. This creates an incentive for people to fabricate evidence for attention or amusement. It is now incredibly easy to create a convincing imitation of star jelly. As we discussed earlier, superabsorbent polymers like sodium polyacrylate are readily available. Anyone can buy a small jar of this powder online or at a craft store. By simply adding water, they can create a perfect, quivering, translucent blob of jelly that looks identical to the classic descriptions of star jelly. A person could easily create such a substance, place it in a field, take a few convincing photos or a video, and post it online with a story about a meteor shower. The story could go viral, fooling thousands of people and adding another layer of false data to the already confusing mystery. Other household products could also be used. A clear, unscented hair gel, for example, could be used to create a convincing fake. This is not to say that all modern sightings are hoaxes. Genuine encounters with unexplained phenomena still occur. But it does mean that we must approach modern photographic or video evidence with a healthy dose of skepticism. We must ask critical questions. Is the source reliable? Could there be a simple, man-made explanation? The possibility of hoaxes makes the work of genuine researchers even harder. They must now sort through not only the natural misidentifications, but also the deliberate deceptions. It is a modern problem layered on top of an ancient mystery, a reminder that the search for truth requires not just open-mindedness, but also careful, critical thinking. Despite the compelling scientific explanations and the possibility of hoaxes, there remains a small, stubborn collection of cases that refuse to be neatly filed away. These are the unresolved incidents, the reports that defy all the logical theories. These are the cases that keep the true mystery of star jelly alive. We have already touched upon some of them, like the incidents in Kirtland and Philadelphia. In these cases, the reported properties of the substance, its large size, its ability to glow or pulsate, its rapid and complete disintegration, do not align with any known biological or chemical substance. If we accept the witness testimony of these credible observers, then we are left with a genuine and profound anomaly. Then there are the laboratory results that are simply strange. The reports of unidentified cells or complex biological structures that do not match any known organism. While many of these claims lack peer-reviewed verification, they add to the lore and the intrigue. What if one of them is real? What if a sample truly did contain something unknown to science? There are also the cases where the substance was found in locations that make the common explanations highly unlikely. Sightings on dry, barren rooftops, or in arid desert environments where amphibians or slime molds could not possibly survive. These outliers are frustrating for scientists, but they are the lifeblood of the mystery. They are the cracks in our understanding of the world. It is through these cracks that a sense of wonder can still shine through. It is easy to dismiss these unresolved cases as exaggerations, mistakes, or fabrications. And perhaps some of them are. But to dismiss all of them is to close the door on the possibility that there are still things in this world that we do not fully understand. These stubborn, unresolved cases ensure that star jelly will not be relegated to a simple footnote in a biology textbook. They keep it where it has always been, on the fascinating borderland between the known and the unknown. As we draw the threads of our journey together, a clear picture begins to form. The mystery of star jelly is likely not the mystery of a single, unknown thing. Rather, it is a grand and beautiful misunderstanding. It is a single, evocative name that has been applied to a wide variety of different and mostly unrelated phenomena. Let us gently synthesize the leading theories. In many cases, especially those in damp, rural areas, the culprit is almost certainly biological. It is the regurgitated oviducts of a frog, a swollen colony of nostoc bacteria, or the sudden, overnight appearance of a slime mold. These organisms perfectly match the description, the location, and the behavior of the mysterious jelly. In other cases, particularly in more modern or industrial settings, the substance might be man-made. It could be a spill of superabsorbent polymers or some other form of chemical waste that forms a gel when mixed with water. In still other cases, the explanation might be pure folklore, a story that grew out of the powerful and intuitive, but ultimately incorrect, link between meteor showers and strange findings on the ground. And finally, there exists that small handful of truly anomalous cases that have no easy explanation at all. These are the events that fuel our imagination and remind us to remain humble in the face of the unknown. So what is star jelly? The most honest answer is that it is a category, not a substance. It is a cultural phenomenon, a folktale that has been kept alive for centuries by our collective tendency to find wonder and mystery in the unexplained corners of our world. It is not one thing, but many things, all viewed through the same lens of celestial wonder. And so, we arrive at the heart of the matter. Why does this mystery endure? In an age of science and instant information, why are we still so captivated by the idea of a living jelly falling from the stars? The answer, perhaps, is that we need mysteries like this. The legend of star jelly speaks to a deep and ancient part of the human spirit. It is born from our timeless fascination with the night sky. Since the dawn of humanity, we have looked up at the stars and wondered. We have seen them as gods, as omens, as distant worlds. The idea that a piece of that magical, celestial realm could fall to earth and land at our feet is an irresistible fantasy. It makes the cosmos tangible. It brings the infinite down to a human scale. The mystery also persists because it exists in the perfect space between the plausible and the impossible. It is just believable enough to be intriguing. It is not a wild tale of spaceships and laser beams. It is a quiet, humble mystery, a strange substance on the morning grass. This subtlety is what gives it its power. It allows us to wonder, to speculate, without feeling foolish. And finally, the star jelly story endures because it reminds us that our world is still a wild and surprising place. Even with all our technology, there are still things that can appear overnight that we cannot immediately identify. Nature is still full of strange and wonderful secrets. Slime molds that act like a single intelligence, ancient bacteria that swell with the rain, the hidden dramas of predator and prey. These things are, in their own way, just as magical as a visitor from the stars. The mystery of star jelly is not about finding a single, definitive answer. It is about the joy of the question itself. It is about the permission to look at the world with a sense of wonder and to see the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. As our gentle exploration comes to a close, we are left not with a simple answer, but with a deeper appreciation for the complexity of the world around us. We have journeyed through centuries of folklore, stared in wonder at the scene of a strange discovery, and followed the careful path of scientific inquiry. We have learned that the enchanting name, star jelly, is likely a beautiful poetic label for a host of earthly phenomena. The most likely candidates are not visitors from space, but our humble neighbors here on Earth, the regurgitated spawn of a frog, a testament to the brutal elegance of the food chain, a colony of ancient cyanobacteria, nostoc, waking from its slumber with the morning rain, or a bizarre and beautiful slime mold creeping through the forest undergrowth. We've also acknowledged the modern mimics, the industrial polymers and chemical spills that can masquerade as a natural wonder. And yet, we are also left with the outliers, the pulsating lights over Kirtland, the giant, vanishing dome in Philadelphia. These cases stand as quiet monuments to the unknown, reminding us that there may still be more to this story than we can currently explain. The true mystery of star jelly, then, is not what it is, but what it represents. Our enduring capacity for wonder, our need to find the magical in the mundane, and the beautiful human tendency to look up at the stars and dream. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful journey into the heart of a timeless enigma. I hope it has brought you a sense of calm and gentle curiosity. May your sleep be deep and your dreams be full of wonder. If you've enjoyed this lecture, please consider subscribing for more journeys into the quiet corners of our world. A simple like or a thoughtful comment helps our small community grow. And now, a final question to carry with you into your dreams. Have you ever found something you couldn't explain? What do you think star jelly really is? Feel free to share your thoughts in the quiet space below. Until next time, sleep well